Meghan's bizarre act at the Invictus event proves Harry at risk of being crushed to death. Meghan's behavior during the games was nothing short of strange.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the King YouTube channel.
Alright then, I guess that was it. Well, Invictus Games has finally come to a close in Germany. The national banners are being cleaned up and competitors are on their way home. And the biggest takeaway I have from all this is, my goodness, that was strange. And I'm not talking about the amazing scenes of bravery and of the human spirit overcoming visible as well as invisible trauma. Instead, I'm talking about the absolutely bizarre behavior that we saw from Meghan Markle. I mean, what on earth has happened to her? In a really shameful turn up for the books, in the 4 days that she was in Europe, Meghan became the very thing that she seemed to fight so hard against during her palace time, an ornamental extra there beside a prince. For the duration of the time Meghan was there, she was flashing that rictus grin of hers, she was clapping, she was cheering, she was posing some more, hugging some contestants and kids. She posed with some NATO chiefs beside Harry, she helped to hand out medals and even read a book to some kids. And not one single time did Meghan feature on the official program. In fact, the only proof we have that Meghan Markle can still speak was an off-the-cuff speech that she gave at a reception just hours after she got there. I mean, how could we forget what Meghan said during that Oprah Winfrey fiasco of an interview, when Meghan talked about watching The Little Mermaid and seeing the similarities with her situation, telling Oprah, but by the end, she gets her voice back. Oddly enough, the version of Meghan we saw at the games was one who was doing a pretty good impression of Ariel when she first washes up on shore, and that's before she gets her voice back. Meghan is somebody who has defined herself by being outspoken and refusing to be silent, but that was not the Meghan Markle we saw last week. I mean, Meghan Markle had turned into a woman who was just content to stand there by her husband and not say a word. This is not the Meghan we have come to know. Let's remember, Meghan has told everybody who will listen that she's a proud feminist. What would her friend Gloria Steinem think? Unlike last year's event, where Meghan took center stage at the opening ceremony and then proceeded to model more than a few ridiculously expensive designer outfits, well, this time around Meghan didn't give a single official speech, and her wardrobe was incredibly toned down for her. I wouldn't get too excited yet that Meghan Markle has had a complete transformation, though, because the final look she wore was a blue leather cutout Cold Gaia dress, and that's exactly what we would expect her to wear. But anyway, I don't believe this is a permanent state of being for Meghan. I don't believe for 1 second that she's going to give up her independent spirit to support her husband fully. But the Invictus Games was certainly an interesting event in the world of Meghan and Harry, and the obvious question at this point is why? What is going on here? Why have we just seen Meghan pretend to be a trad wife? One explanation could be because of the public hostility towards Meghan in the US. More Americans now are holding an unfavorable view of Meghan than a favorable one. At Meghan and Harry's worst point polling-wise this year, Queen Camilla actually did better in the US than Meghan did. And Harry's doing a little better than Meghan, but still, it's not like he's popular stateside. Going into the games, it was obvious that Meghan and Harry needed to do something to change people's minds. Their reputations are in the toilet, and they are viewed as overpaid, underworked hires whose lack of talent was only matched by lukewarm public interest in their non-palace projects. They're being seen as a couple of people who have lost that royal sparkle and may never be able to get it back. By the time we hit September, it looked like Brand Sussex was done. I think even they realized they needed to do something to remake themselves, to convince everybody that they're not a couple of grifters, and that instead they're happy people who just really love helping others. Obviously, the gruesome twosome are excited to start some new chapters, new matching notebooks, and new eras of their careers, and an important part of that thinking seems to be a professional separation. Now, if Meghan and Harry are trying to separate their brands, then that could explain why we have just seen Meghan take the lead and was the leading face of the event. And this career separation doesn't seem to only be rooted in them playing their strengths, but also their interests. Supposedly, Meghan Markle has some big new digital venture in the offering, and she's going to get back on Instagram. She's got that mega agent representing her, and supposedly, at least, Meghan's going to be working on an adaptation of bestseller Meet Me at the Lake for Netflix. So it does look like Meghan is trying to make a comeback to Hollywood. So what is Harry going to do? Is he just going to have to sit around their home office, drinking vegan lattes, playing video games, and trying to figure out how to do some good in the world? Well, it doesn't seem like Harry's so interested in playing the Hollywood game. I mean, just think about the look on his face when he went to see Beyoncé in concert with Meghan and Dory and some friends earlier this month. I mean, Meghan looked like she was thrilled to be there, and Harry looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. And anyway, it seems like Meghan's a lot more interested in the spotlight than Harry is. She wants to be in the middle of the public eye. So the division of duties looks like in the future, Meghan's going to wear the glitzy superstar hat with a sideline and do-goodery, and then Harry's going to pretend to be the humanitarian. And I guess in the future, they'll probably try to take turns to step out in front and lead. I think we know who's really going to be leading this situation. But anyway, the events of the last few days are a bit strange because Meghan Markle kept her mouth shut. We've never seen that happen. Alright, so in light of this interesting video, I want to talk about some of your comments in my video discussing Harry smiling brightly at the Invictus Games, proving a sad truth after escaping Meghan. First up, I like this point made by Kay. She wants us all to move on, but me, Meghan, and Harry keep bringing up their truths again and again and again, and their sugars just keep it going. You're right about that. These sugars, honestly, I don't think they help their situation very much. Meghan and Harry really need to find some new fans. Oh, wait a minute. I guess they can't. And then user ET2 goes on to talk about that Bob Iger situation, saying in an unexpected turn of events, Bob Iger, a Disney executive, has decided to withdraw sponsorship from the Invictus Games following a request to ban Meghan Markle from the closing ceremony. The move sparked a wave of controversy. Harry should have put Invictus first and not that wife of his. Meghan is destroying the Invictus Games. Harry had to choose between Meghan and Invictus. He chose Meghan and let her ruin Invictus. Harry needs to understand that many of these brave veterans swore allegiance to the late Queen and would have given their lives for her. The veterans also know about the disgusting curtsy mocking our late Queen and what was said on Oprah interview 3 weeks before Prince Philip died. If anybody has more information about this Bob Iger situation, please let us know in the comments. I'm really interested in learning more about this story. Next up, a comment by Armani. Correction, Has No Morals didn't invent the Invictus Games. He took the idea from the U.S. Warrior Games. Additionally, William and Catherine were also initial patrons of the games. So the drug addict has actually done nothing of note on his own for public good, IMO. Any apparent good from Hasno occurred when the palace was covering for him, IMO. You know, that's my opinion too, Armani. People like to talk about, oh, well, at least Harry created the games, but the fact is, he didn't really. He had so much help and so much support from the palace, and again, he just took the idea from the U.S. Warrior Games, so I don't think he deserves all that credit. I like this comment from Karen too. I don't know how people can say it's just her. Harry is worse by letting her do everything she has. She has done her best to destroy his family, Britain's monarchy. Harry hurt his grandparents so badly and wouldn't see the Queen when she was dying. He's a pathetic excuse for any life form above a sea sponge. Sea slugs are way too cute to call him one. And then Karen also says, love may be blind, but it's not deaf and dumb as well. Thank you for your comments, Karen. I agree with you. I mean, when I think about everything Harry has done, even if he does have Stockholm Syndrome or he's been brainwashed or whatever, there are certain things that maybe could be forgiven eventually, but will never be forgotten. And then, discussing Harry's character a little more, we've got this comment from Nanny of Many. Please also remember the women he has beaten and even landed in hospital. The horses he has beaten or ridden to death. Don't forget he is an evil son of a lady dog in his own right. The way he treated his grandparents as they lay dying. No, he is not a nice person. From what we have seen of Harry recently at least, yeah, I'm inclined to agree with you. Now, back in the day, I don't know. I hate to think that we were all fooled, but maybe we were. Maybe the palace just really did that great of a job of making him appear to be a much nicer person than he really is. Thanks for your comment, Nanny. So next up, we have a comment from Susan Roberts. Harry has two choices, remain with her or cut loose. He has to learn that his actions have consequences, and he has to take responsibility. A word Harry at 39 knows nothing about because the palace protected him and continues that path. He will have to tell the truth about those children, about the marriage, and about Meghan Markle. Will he be man enough to do that? There's also the possibility that Meghan Markle has very damaging video on Harry, the drug and alcohol abuse, or other women, and will use this to attempt to blackmail him. She also could have damaging material on the royals, possibly even getting that information from Harry or Eugenie or paid palace spies. As Harry once said, Meghan is capable of anything. Whew. Yes, when you're evil, you are capable of anything. Harry has to make some difficult decisions, but I think he's definitely not in the Meghan Markle league to scheme, connive, and come up with a plausible action plan. He's doomed himself here. I think this is a very good point, Susan. I don't think Harry realized what he was getting involved with when he got involved with Meghan Markle. That woman is evil to the core, and she's going to do anything she needs to get ahead, even if that means destroying Harry in the process. So Nicole says, I have said this from the beginning. Everyone shouldn't judge Harry as it's Meghan was the puppeteer. Remember the saying, love is blind. That is an interesting perspective that many people share, Nicole. Let's see what your responses are. So then we've got Carolyn saying, Harry is a grown man and is responsible for his own actions. True, he is stupid, but even stupid people can be loyal to people who love them. Harry is guilty of what Harry does, period. And then Heather also responded saying, Harry, you better wake up. Meghan has dragged you right down. You are one day going to wake up to nothing. Meghan does not care or love you. She is only with you for all the benefits. This is true. And then Karen says, I don't know how people can say it's just her. Harry is worse by letting her do everything she has. We already read that comment. But anyway, Nicole, I'm not going to say that you're wrong in this situation. In some ways, I really do agree with you. I think that Harry has been taken advantage of. Now, is he a really great person at the end of the day? Probably not. But I do think that if Harry were following someone other than Meghan, he could be a good person. I think that there's hope for Harry, whereas I don't think there's any hope for Meghan. Now, I think all the other commenters make a good point too, that Harry does need to be held responsible for his actions, because yes, he did choose to follow this evil woman, but at the same time, we need to remember that he's got some emotional problems, and he certainly isn't very bright. So, was he a victim of Meghan? I do think so. Of course, that does not absolve him of anything he did. He certainly did all those things and he should be held accountable for them. But I think it's also important to remember that Harry does come from a very good family. He comes from a family that loved him and protected him his whole life. And then he fell into Meghan Markle's web. Barbara Lamb also saw what we saw in Harry's face. She says he did look happy at the games, but then she turned up and his face then changed. Why can't she just get the message? No one wants her and no one cares about her. She is a non-entity and only acknowledged because of who she married. Honestly, Barbara, I also don't understand why Meghan even showed up. Why couldn't she have just stayed home with the invisible children and Doria? And then JL shared their opinion, saying the pictures and headlines made me sick. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle so in love. Ew, wasn't that gross? Anyway, JL continues on saying Harry only had a slight glimmer in his eyes while watching the games, but you can tell he misses the life he threw out. Markle was strutting around like she was a princess. She's disturbed. Hugging people and fake smiles will not make her Princess Diana. Nice try, but this was all an act. She's still hanging all over Harry as well. This isn't love. This isn't genuine. I believe it's a ploy to have the royal family see how happy and great they're doing. Where were the kids this time? Thank you for your comment, JL. I completely agree. It's funny to me to think about how Meghan Markle ever made money as an actress. I mean, her acting skills are abysmal. All right, thank you so much for all your comments. Please keep them coming, and please continue to discuss this couple with us below in the comments section.
Please don't forget to subscribe to our The King YouTube channel to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely evening, and we'll be back to see you tomorrow. Bye. I love you all.